In the middle of nowhere, far from any busy mines, a huge, rusty TRL sat empty, forgotten by time. Parker Schnabel had seen a lot of old mining gear left behind in the middle of nowhere, but this one was different. We're talking about a huge machine that is 40 feet long and 6.5 feet wide. In the old days, mining was all about moving huge amounts of dirt as quickly as possible. This machine looked like it had been built to handle heavy-duty tasks and process huge amounts of pay dirt, but there was a problem. When it came to getting small pieces of gold, old digging equipment wasn't the best. A lot of fine gold got through the screens. Over years of use, they can build up inside the tools. It's possible that his TRL wasn't just an old, rusty piece of junk. It could be hiding a lot of money. Parker became too interested in what was going on. Welder would work on this wash plant for 6 months. Most likely if you were open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Cut down on upkeep and downtime for plant moves. We have 2 big things to talk about. That's not our wash plant. He got on top of the TRL and began cleaning off the grime and junk that had been there for decades. At first, it looked like just another old, rusty machine covered in dirt and rust. But then he saw something strange, a faint glow of gold inside the machine. At first, it didn't seem real. Could gold have been sitting there untouched for years? But as he looked more closely, he saw more flake-like pieces of gold embedded deep inside the machine's worn-out interior. What began as a guess quickly turned into a shocking truth. It was thought that the TRL was worth more than $400 million because it was full of gold. It seemed like no one had come back for it. The first miners may have lost their money or run into problems. No matter what the reason was, they couldn't get the machine to work again. Parker was up against a huge problem because all that gold was just ready to be found again. He needed to get the TRL to work again in order to get that gold. But it wasn't easy to do that. The machine was huge, rusty, and breaking down. The first problem was getting it out of the woods. It would be hard to move something that heavy over rough terrain without breaking it, so lifts, trucks, and careful planning were needed. Then came the real work, fixing the machine. Some of the things that had to be fixed were worn-out gears, broken screens, and the huge steel drum that made the whole process possible. We tested those 2 plants today, which was a good idea, but we need to make some choices. Clocks beating. Parker and his team wouldn't give up, even though it was hard, slow work. They knew what was at stake. They chose to test the dirt that was piled up around the TRL while they worked in case it also had gold in it. Then things got even stranger. The dirt wasn't just good, it was unbelievably rich. Every pan showed a lot more gold than anyone thought it would, a lot more than what a normal mine site would normally give. The site wasn't like any other. It was a really great thing. Seeing how valuable this place really was, Parker quickly set up a small processing plant nearby to get the most out of the situation. He wasn't going to let another ounce of gold get away from him. He made sure that not a single bit of gold was lost this time by using both old-fashioned mining methods and cutting-edge technology. His crew worked hard to restore the TRL. They learned more about its history. The machine hadn't been part of a single operation. It was an important part of a huge mining network. Old records showed that several sites were linked together, moving gold from one place to another. If this TRL had been sitting on gold for decades, other abandoned mines might also be hiding gold. These records were like a treasure map that led Parker to more possible finds. It wasn't just about fixing an old machine anymore. It was also about finding out about a lost part of gold mine history. Parker's team worked hard for weeks. Every screw and panel that was rusty told a story of a miner who had risked everything to find gold. It wasn't just about getting the gold. It was also about honoring the struggles and hopes of those who had come before. For example, Gold Run was a very rich creek that dumped into Dominion. And I think it was in this area right here. The deeper they dug, the better. As soon as the news got out, gold kept coming in at a rate that surprised no one. What began as an abandoned, rusting treasure became one of Parker's biggest gold finds of all time as he stood in front of the huge machine. Parker couldn't help but think about what they had done. It wasn't brand new, smooth, or shiny. Instead, it was the other way around. It had rust on the outside. People would have walked right past it, thinking it was useless junk, but Parker saw something others didn't. He knew that wealth wasn't always hidden. Buried far below ground, there were times when it was right out in the open, waiting for the right person to see it. TRL was once one of the best gold processing machines of its time. It was very good at separating gold from dirt and rock. But as technology improved, newer, faster machines replaced the old ones, which were thrown away like relics of the past. This TRL was found in a remote mining area, surrounded by broken tools, wooden structures that had collapsed, and rusted-out machinery. Most people saw it as just another piece of history that was being forgotten, but Parker saw it as a rare chance. Parker had learned a very important lesson that many miners didn't see. Old tools often held gold that had never been properly recovered. If this machine had worked with gold-rich material before, tiny bits of gold could get stuck in the troll's cracks and become mixed in with dirt and other junk. There was probably still some gold inside. There was more than just an old, rusty TRL there. There was a secret gold vault just waiting to be found. Getting it out of its remote spot wasn't going to be simple. The TRL was very big, weighing several tons, and it was far from any roads that could be used to get to it. To move it safely, you needed big equipment, good coordination, and a lot of willpower. One mistake could ruin the whole project, and all that work would be for nothing, but Parker's team wasn't going to give up. They carefully planned every step, knowing that if they succeeded, they wouldn't just be moving an old machine. They'd be bringing a legendary design standpoint back to life. They're like very movable and easy to move around. They have wheels. That is a great thought. This is a 50 to 60 yard per hour wash plant, which is the problem. But if you had a much bigger version of this, I could see it working once they got it to a safe place. The real work began. Years of being out in the weather had worn them down. Rust had eaten away at important parts. The metal was weaker and some parts were missing. Most people thought it couldn't be fixed. Even so, Parker wasn't one to back down from a fight. His team started taking the TRL apart piece by piece, removing layers of rust, replacing broken parts, and making weak spots stronger. But they didn't stop there. They didn't just want to fix the TRL. They wanted to make it better than ever. By combining the best of the past with the power of the present, they improved its systems by adding new technology to make them more efficient and last longer. They were making something truly special. A machine with the dependability of well-made old-world items and the cutting-edge performance of new mining tools. The moment of truth had finally come after weeks of hard work. The team turned on the TRL and it roared back to life. As the big drum turned, it sifted through dirt and rocks very efficiently, finding gold. There was one more big surprise. A lot more gold started spilling out than anyone had thought possible. Some of the things that the TRL processed Parker had never seen such large gold reserves. That old machine that everyone else had given up on became one of Parker Schnabel's biggest successes. But it wasn't just gold that he found. It was about having a clear vision and being able to see promise where others saw only junk. It showed that with hard work, taking risks, and an eye for a good deal, even the most forgotten artifact could be turned into something truly valuable. Parker's success was more than just bringing an old machine back to life. It changed how people felt about going into the ground through using both old and new technologies. His team showed that they set a new bar for responsible mining by minimizing the damage to the environment while getting the most gold out of the ground. This made mining more efficient and long-lasting. Other miners paid attention to Parker's story, which led to a new wave of exploring. This showed that sometimes the best gold rushes weren't in uncharted territory, but in the rusty ruins of the past, waiting for someone with the vision to bring them back to life. Sign up now to join the search for lost treasures, hidden riches, and famous gold finds.